Hi, this is going to be a really quick video on Amnesia, The Dark Descent. A lot goes into crafting a successful horror game. The setting, the lighting, the character design, and so on. But even more important than all of that are the things we don't see. The terrors we are forced to imagine. And the reason is simple.
It's best to allow the audience to work for themselves and make them think a little bit more and let them anticipate something that's happened or will happen or imagine what happened. Because, I mean, their own imaginations very often they dream up far worse things than I could.
Ridley Scott may not be a game designer, but the same wisdom still applies. And he isn't the only film director that believes this. Watch Hitchcock, or Kubrick, or Polanski. All these guys generate a startling amount of fear by limiting what the audience gets to see. Of course, this is a relatively easy thing to do when the director is in complete control of the image, but it poses a unique challenge to video games, where much of that control belongs to the player. Horror games have dealt with this issue in a variety of different ways. Resident Evil, for example, used pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed camera angles, often leaving the player with large blind spots for monsters to hide in. And Silent Hill 2 does the same thing, albeit in a different way. The camera stays close to James and only shows one direction, either cutting off what's directly in front of him, or cutting off what's directly behind him. And the controls are so unwieldy that it's difficult to get the camera exactly where you want it. Both techniques work. We're always on edge, tense, ready to jump at a moment's notice, but they aren't tailored to the demands of an interactive medium. Resident Evil and Silent Hill both take control away from the player in order to put the camera where they want it. This can cause as much frustration as it does fear because it feels like an artificial handicap. Instead, Amnesia: The Dark Descent actually uses its mechanics to solve the problem, and it's better for it. Here's how it works. Anytime you look at a monster, you lose some sanity. The less sanity you have, the harder it is to progress and the easier it is for monsters to find you. In other words, the game punishes you for looking at the enemy and rewards you for keeping monsters off screen. But what's most impressive about this solution is how it's founded on a defining component of video games: player choice. Instead of exerting authorial control, the game simply incentivizes your decisions. And since this masterstroke is safely hidden inside a game mechanic, it's nearly invisible to the player. But frictional games didn't invent the sanity meter. So why are we talking up that game when there are half a dozen others that do the same thing? Well, Amnesia is probably most inspired by 2002's Eternal Darkness, but there's one important difference. In Eternal Darkness, you lose your sanity when monsters look at you, instead of losing your sanity when you look at them. You're never rewarded for averting your gaze like you are in Amnesia. In fact, thanks to the game's camera, you couldn't look away even if you wanted to. And by the end, its monsters become familiar decorations, commonplace. Instead of terrifying us with their presence, they become just another obstacle in our way. And another key difference is that in Amnesia, you can't fight back. Most horror games demand that you confront and conquer their horrors. Amnesia demands that you do the exact opposite. You can only run like hell and hope they don't catch up. As a result, you spend most of the game with your back to the enemies. You never get too familiar with them. And while other games put their horrors on display for the world to see, Frictional simply allows your imagination to fill in the gaps, because they knew what Ridley Scott knew.
I mean, their own imaginations very often they dream up far worse things than I could.
I'm afraid that's what I did.
That's right. Perfect.
We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, the absolute best way to tell us so is to like, subscribe, or follow us on Twitter. Again, thanks so much for watching.